Welcome back, everyone, to the Company Fears 2 replay cast. This time, the replay is going to be sent in by Capin97, the competent player, as he so aptly named himself, Kappa Gaben, and his friend is going to be FMP Destroyer. We are going to have a USF Soviet coalition going up against the OKW, commanded by Mars and Goof, playing as Wehrmacht. On Elst outskirts, yay! Another time! This map seems to be coming up quite frequently in everybody's auto match, which is, well, not good for me because it's like the 7th time I've casted it in about a month, which, well, doesn't bode well. Already some Folks Grenadiers being produced by the OKW. Sturm Pioneers trying to get the Combat Engineers to retreat quite successfully at that, and the Conscripts are going to steal the house right beneath their nose and gonna force them to essentially get into a position where they can hope to outdamage the 2 conscripts that are firing on them with their 4 SDGs, but that bet seems to have gone awfully wrong with Sturm Pioneers. Gonna be forced to retreat from the house, and the Soviet player is gonna be able to capture the left side of the map, whereas Kapen is going pretty strong on the right side, getting the BP captured, which is going to be very useful. Unfortunately, his riflemen are starting to take fire from this MG42 from Goof, so he's going to have to face the Wehrmacht off against himself, which is not going to be very good for him because he's going to be needing to get flanks on this MG42. If he doesn't do that, then he's going to have a very tough time actually winning on this right side of the map because of the huge line of sight that is this field over here, whereas on the left side it's a little bit easier to flank around because of these fences, because of the buildings, the way they're laid out and such. Now, conscripts are going to be easily destroyed by these 2 Volksgrenadier squads, and I'm not sure what they're doing a bit of a moonwalk and getting demolished by the Kar-98K fire. On the right side of the map, Kapen has got his riflemen, but they're going to have to retreat soon enough, or else they will be definitely decimated by these German squads that are starting to fire up on them. And now, also, these Pioneers are going to be spotting for the MG42, so the riflemen are also going to have to abandon this building position and possibly get behind these trucks and cars for some extra heavy cover and possibly getting out of the range of that machine gun. On the left side of the map, we see a bit of a skirmish going on. These conscripts are still in the building, and they're starting to just get very heavily veteran, which is very good. Coming into the flank of another conscript squad, FMP Destroyer is going to be doing fairly well against these Volksgrenadiers, but the Volksgrenadiers are not going to be outdone, and they're going to be able to capture the stone building, thus forcing these conscripts to get outside of their line of fire so that they're not taking damage from the very accurate Volksgrenadiers, and also coming in with a flank from the conscript squad that now got out of the building, but now essentially leaving the building open to the Sturm Pioneers. Sturm Pioneers is going to be trying to get into close range to help out with the Volksgrenadiers, but the Volksgrenadiers will have to retreat, and so the Sturm Pioneers will be kind of left alone along with this other squad. Very good job by Kapen in the center, getting the barbed wire and the tank trap to get some cover for his riflemen, and the riflemen are going to be able to very easily capture the point. Along with a mortar coming out, they're going to be able to essentially nullify the effect of this machine gun being here, because with the mortar he's going to be able to flush it out, and with the riflemen capturing up here, very safe from the MG42's fire. That's also a little bit of an extra dent in the MG's effectiveness and efficiency in combat. Now, MG is going to be repositioning around, and mortar is starting to get some pot shots on the Germans, which is going to alert Goof. And soon, hopefully, he's going to be getting the MG out of the house. Nice flank coming in from a squad over here, but they're going to go for the point instead of the actual fight, so they're not going to be that useful. In general, Lieutenant is on the field for Kapen, which is not going to be the most useful thing because there is a 2-2 scout car coming on from Goof, so he's going to have a counter to the M20 if Kapen decides to go for the M20, which I don't think he will. But he's going to definitely have a counter to the Lieutenant if he gets out 2 2-2s, aka 4-4-4. If he gets out the 4-4-4, which he's going to be able to once he cancels this Pioneer squad, I don't know. Once he gets a little bit more manpower, he's going to be having the manpower to actually get the 4-4-4. He's going to have a very easy way to counter the infantry hordes that Kapen is bringing out. Grenadiers not going to be basically up to snuff with this kind of engagement with the Lieutenant. Lieutenant getting into the negative cover, not taking any damage from these flamethrowers. Flamethrowers, in fact, shooting at the poor mortar crews. And here comes the 222. 222 basically doesn't have anything to fear because none of these rifleman squads have the ability to use the anti-tank rifle grenades. Flamethrowers on the Pioneers might go down, very lucky to escape. Also, the machine gun gonna go almost down from the fire of both the mortars and the American infantry that are just surging forward and forcing the 222 to retreat, which is going to be a decent thing for Capen, and he's gonna have the tactical support regiment, or sorry, company, thinking about the British. Obviously, Sherman Calliope, yes. We all know how much Capen loves the Sherman Calliope, so it's gonna be interesting to see how much those have an impact on this game. Again, it's all outskirts, so people are going to be huddling up into several different areas. They're going to be sort of their campfires. They're going to be huddling around them, and so the Calliope is going to be extremely good at dealing with those. Very good rotation coming in from the infantry. Going to be able to capture the point, but there's a Flamethrower. Flamethrower going to be dealing huge amounts of damage, and he got triple kill on the Rifleman. Rifleman going to be able to get out of the building, but that means that the Grenadiers are going to be able to supplement them in the building and stealing it from under the noses of the Riflemen. However, the mortar is going to flush them out soon enough, and the Riflemen are going to be able to get in. These Riflemen are Fed 1, so they have the ability to use the anti-rifle grenades, which means that the light vehicles have to retreat. Speaking of light vehicles, here comes a Puma from Mars, which means that he has gone for the mechanized transporters. He's going to be upgrading the automatrons, and the automatrons are going to be extremely useful for both him and his ally because his placement of the mechanized has been pretty useful out of the base, but not too far forward, so kind of, ooh, a demo charge. So kind of protected, and at the same time, he's going to be able to support his ally as well with their repair speed on those automatrons. Now, on the south side, we do see that FMP Destroyer is starting to use his conscripts, and he's starting to take a lot of damage, but he hasn't gone for the... Wait, what? He has gone for the Field Infirmary, but all of his conscripts are damaged. I guess that was a recent purchase, because right now all of his infantry is very, very low. He has purchased an anti-tank gun, which is a good purchase in my opinion, because he knows that the mechanized regiment is on the field, so a Lux is a possibility. Now, usually I don't see people going for Puma and then for a Lux, but it's better to be safe than sorry. And looks like the Riflemen from Capen are going to be able to escape, even in the negative cover, just by a little bit. Probably because of the fact that the 222 was damaged and the main gun was destroyed. Very good job by getting those crits. Very lucky, obviously. Looks like also Mars lost on infantry squad, probably a Volksgrenadier. So losing that Volksgrenadier is not going to be very useful. Lieutenant getting a sneak around the 222 Scott car might be able to take it out with the BER's fire. BER obviously having a little bit of armor penetration is going to be a little bit more effective against the armored car than the other weapons that the squad has, aka the Monkarans, and so takes it down. Very good pickup from Capen's lieutenant. Going to be able to get some additional veterancy and also destroy that very, very pesky German light vehicle, which is going to be extremely useful, especially because that vehicle could have been turned into a very useful recon unit if he had gone for the German mechanized doctrine with spotting scopes, and if that armored car had reached Vet 2 with the additional sight range. Now, we do see that Mr. Destroyer has gone for a Maxim, and the Maxim has been, well, two Maxims in fact. They have been extremely useful at dealing with the German infantry, but right now the Germans, ooh, looks like both the demo charge and the AT gun combined have destroyed the building over here, which is going to be useful because the actual MG34 was actually trying to use that for cover. Again, right now the Germans do have a bit of a lead in terms of VPs. Nice usage of the Minesweepers from Capen, which is going to be very, very good. Unfortunately, it does look like the MG42 is going to be firing upon these poor re-echelon troops, who are going to be sacrificed for the greater good of the Gaven, and they're going to be defusing mines and doing such maneuvers. Interestingly, Capen decided to go with a M1919 light machine gun on the rear echelon troops. Clearly didn't go that well for this guy, but thankfully the MG teleported to the other guy, so at least the 60 munitions, or 70, sorry, munitions is pretty much safe, which is going to be more important than that guy. Oh, Schwer Panzer Quarters being built in a extremely aggressive location by Mars, and I'm trying to protect the VP. Unfortunately, for the Allies, FMP Destroyer decided to not go for it. I think he could have destroyed it had he pushed up all of his units, especially the Sisu M17 quad, he would have been able to destroy it. The quad basically takes like half a second to destroy a full health Schwer Panzer headquarters. So I think he could have definitely come in and destroyed it. He was obviously afraid of the Puma. But if you can use your quad half-track to actually destroy a Schwer Panzer headquarters, you're going to be repaying for itself. Because the Schwer Panzer headquarters is like 140 fuel to build. So the 30 fuel spent on the quad will be extremely well traded for 145 fuel Schwer Panzer headquarters, even if you lose it. But it looks like he's going to be playing conservative with it and trying to use it essentially as a defense for the anti-tank gun. This is the reason I love this unit. You can use it combined with the anti-tank gun. The anti-tank guns are going to be, ooh, a 150mm mortar. Interesting. So I'm going to talk about that later. You can use the anti-tank gun to defend against, oh boy, Tellermine. You could use a rifle grenade there, Goof, to actually destroy that entire squad, but it doesn't look like he's going to be doing that, and that's going to allow Kapen to notice that his squads were getting destroyed and run away. Interestingly, Kapen hasn't gone for a 4 or 5 win squad because he's gone for the lieutenant tier. I wonder if he will back tech to the captain, or sorry, sort of side tech to the captain, because right now he's lacking in terms of AT, and because of the fact that he has the tactical support company, he has the ability to call in the Sherman Calliope, so he does have the call in available. So spending a little bit of extra fuel is not going to be as devastating as if he were to have something like, I don't know, recon support, whereas, or maybe even infantry company, where he would have to essentially buy something from the major, and so spend that additional fuel. I don't know. I think a captain would be very useful for him, also because he does have a few units of manpower in additional reserve, so having the anti-tank gun would be extremely useful, just in case Goof decides to go for any kind of vehicles, and he is going for vehicles. He's going for the Brumbear, so Brumbear is going to be extremely useful. Again, speaking about the Zissou, Zissou is extremely useful at defending anti-tank guns because of its essentially 360-degree arc of fire and extremely quick suppression time. It is much, much better at suppressing than the Maxim. The problem with it is it's not quite as good in terms of survivability, so you want to be very, very careful as to what you're doing with it, because it's obviously a vehicle. So once anti-tank weapons start to proliferate on the battlefield, you're going to be essentially hard-pressed to keep this thing alive. Whereas, essentially, the only thing that is able to very quickly destroy a Maxim is artillery. And right now, the Germans are really kind of lacking in terms of artillery, in terms of high explosive weapons in general. They do have that Brumbear getting out, essentially coming on the field right now, but the Brumbear is most likely going to go on the right side of the map to fight Kapen. Kapen is going for a Sherman, which is an interesting choice because he actually kind of involuntarily hit the nail in the coffin. Well, not the nail in the coffin, he hit the needle in the haystack. Yeah, more like that, because really, the Brumbear is the only German unit right now that Goof could be getting that's not going to essentially be very useful against the Sherman. Well, maybe the Panzerwerfer as well. Yeah, I guess he was pretty lucky because the Sherman is going to be extremely useful against the German infantry, and the Brumbear is not only very expensive in terms of manpower, 420, haha, 420, very funny. So basically, the fact that the Sherman is going to be bleeding the manpower of Goof dry is very useful. And it's amplified by the fact that he spent so much manpower on that Brumbear. Now, if he had gone for a Panther, obviously the Panther would have been extremely, extremely effective against the Sherman. But he's going to be able to come in with the Sherman, unfortunately not loading the high explosive rounds on his main 75mm gun, which means that he's not going to be able to do as much damage against these Storm Pioneers. In the south side, we do see a bit of a push coming in with the support of the Brumbear and the Puma. Puma going to be trying to get the Zissou quad mount to essentially be dead, but it's running right into the target vehicle from the guard mortar coordination tactics. The anti-tank gun trying to assist is going to be outmaneuvered, but thanks to the marked vehicle, even the Maxim is doing huge amounts of damage to this poor Zissou, or sorry, not Zissou, this poor Puma. The anti-tank gun will not even need to set up to destroy the Puma, because the Puma goes down to the rear shots from the Maxim, and that means that the half-track can come in and destroy these Fallschirmjägers. One Fallschirmjäger squad going down. Mars is just losing so many infantry squads, which is not what he wants to be doing. He doesn't have any munitions, which means that his assault essentially was for nothing because he sent in his forces and essentially they couldn't use any of their abilities to destroy the Soviet units, which, well, isn't exactly all that good. Very risky defuse coming in from the rear echelon troops. They could have been shot at by the Broom Bear, and had the Broom Bear shot at them, then the mine would have detonated, and, well, it doesn't really matter if you have a minesweeper if the mine's going to detonate, because 152 millimeters of German explosives have just landed upon them. There is a Panzer IV Ausf coming in from Mars, which is very lucky for him because he's going to be losing a Schwer Panzer Quarters. Again, very, very aggressive placement. Not exactly what you want to be doing when the opponent seems to be having the upper hand, such as this Soviet player FMP Destroyer. He's going to be able to use his anti-tank gun also to repel the poor Panzer IV, which also means that the AT gun is not firing at the Schwer Panzer Quarters, and the Storm Pioneers have a bit of a window to repair it. Now, here comes a very nice incendiary grenade, forcing the poor anti-tank gun to reposition. I would be merging these conscripts with the anti-tank gun. He does not do it, which is, in my opinion, a mistake. I would be, again, merging the conscripts with the anti-tank gun crew, thus allowing a little bit of extra survivability for the anti-tank gun, because, again, the anti-tank gun is a little bit of an important asset right now, because it is what it's allowing the Soviets to actually destroy this Schwer Panzer Quarters. 122mm mortar also going to work, but he's not using the mortar barrage ability, so he's going to be firing intermittently at the Schwer Panzer Quarters, which means that he's going to be, again, not exactly in the best position to outdamage the repair from these Storm Pioneers. He needs to be sending up his anti-tank guns right away before some essentially extra German reinforcements can come in. And he's going to be sending in also the Guards Riflemen, which are not going to be all too effective because they're going to be coming under the fire support fire from the 37mm anti-aircraft gun of the Schwer Panzer Quarters. Very nice job with the anti-tank gun, also doing some extra damage, but here comes the second Focus Incendiary Squad throwing an incendiary grenade and essentially dousing the AT Grunt crew in a bit of a hot bath. In the right side, we do see that K-Pen is starting to deal huge amounts of damage with the mortars against the German infantry, and unfortunately the Sherman hasn't really gone for the high explosive rounds, just now getting them loaded up, and unfortunately it's a little bit too late because there's a Pak 43 on the field to counter the Sherman. Interesting. Goof also going for a Command Panzer IV with the Festung Armor Doctrine. There goes the Schwer Panzer Quarters. Very nice job from FMP Destroyer. Unfortunately, his Vet 2 anti-tank gun is going to go down. Replacing it will be a T-3485, but the T-3485 starts to take fire from the Raketenwerfer, is going to be forced to retreat. Very lucky for Mars that this MG34 did not go down. Combat engineers trying to reman the anti-tank gun and trying to also escape with their lives, which would be very useful for them, I'm sure. And they might be able to. If he brings up the T-3476, then he's going to have a much easier time at it. But it doesn't look like he's going to be doing it. T-3485 and AT gun going to be using the marked vehicle by surprise to very, very unluckily not destroy the Panzer IV, but the T-3485 moves up and destroys the Panzer IV anyway. Doesn't give a shit about it. And right now, it doesn't look like the Jackson had a first taste of the Pak 43, but the Sherman decided that the Pak 43 is done for this world, came from behind, or sorry, from the flank, I guess, with the HE rounds, gonna be destroying it, and looks like the Grenadiers will be trying to reman the Pak 43, but that was a veteran Grenadier squad, and it was destroyed in the process because of the fact that Soviet Il-2 tries to kamikaze into the Pak 43, but this just does not work. Very unfortunate. Right now, I think the Soviet player is just so defensive. He has been doing so well in the defensive, but he needs to be pushing his units up and capturing this damn VP. Because right now, K-Pen on the right side, he's been losing engagements, but he has been destroying German units, and he has been capturing points. So he's been actually adding map control to the Allies. So much so that right now, Mars has been forced to come in to actually reinforce the positions of Goof, which is going to be extremely effective because of the Pak 43, I might add. Right now, what the Allies really need to do is they need to come in and capture this point. They need to put some more pressure on the left side of the map because it's going to be very useful. Here comes the two Fallschirmjägers, going to be able to easily destroy the conscripts, but the Maxim and the Guards Riflemen are going to be able to lay down some murderous fire downrange, especially against these units in negative cover, which is going to be exactly what they're going to need. Unfortunately, there is a bit of a flank, very good flank coming in from Mars. It's going to be stopped by the half-track. Again, essential unit to essentially have a versatile way to get some suppression down on German units. There goes a Fallschirmjäger squad, 440 manpower, again down the drain. That is the second Fallschirmjäger squad that goes down. Gotta be always wary for these Fallschirmjägers because of the fact that they are very easily destroyed. They're only a 4-man squad, and 440 manpower means that each single model is worth essentially 110 manpower. Now, they're less expensive to reinforce, but if you're going to be losing the squad, that is essentially what they're going to be worth. So you don't want to be losing that. Don't want to be losing that huge investment. Now, the Major is available. He does have the fake barrage available to him, but he's going to be using it as a retreat point with the ambulance. I feel like he could be moving it up a little bit more, perhaps to here, but he's definitely afraid of enemy artillery fire, enemy mortar fire, etc., etc. The Calliope, speaking of artillery fire, is on the field, and he does have the ability to fire at any time. I think the first barrage is going to be going on the Pak-43. I myself would wait to see if I can get the blob of infantry. Well, I say the blob, but right now, really, Goof is down to a couple of units, so he's not going to really have a blob. Any kind of concentration of infantry is going to be nice. And again, he's going to have to rebuild the 2-2 because he really wants that scouting capability. And, oh, no, he fired at the Pak-43. I would have loved to see a barrage against this concentration of German units. Very lucky for the Pak-43, he actually survived. Now, looks like the quad is doing a bit of a forward run. It's going to get blocked by this P-3485. Very lucky that the Raketenwerfer is not able to fire upon it. Raketenwerfer has reached Ved 1, and now it's basically unstoppable because of the fact that it's able to move faster and camouflage. The big breakthrough sort of veterancy for the Raketenwerfer is that Ved 1, because it can just zip around the map in camouflage, which is a little ridiculous sometimes. Right now, these Panzer Grenadiers have a flamethrower, so they don't have the Panzerschrecks upgraded, which means that the flanks coming in from various different German units are not going to be quite as effective because of the fact that they lack the ability to destroy vehicles. And as you can see, the Shermans were able to easily repel these poor Pioneers, as well as with the support of the half-track, the quad. There is a Katyusha on the field from FMP Destroyer. I think he should have looked at what doctrine Kapen got. One tip is that you can... Oh, come on. Hold on. One tip, if I change the HUD, is that you can do this, and it's going to show you what doctrines people have gone for. Now, you may say, oh, it's only because of the observer mode, etc., 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 blah, 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 blah. No, it's not going to show the enemy doctrines if you are obviously in a game, but it's going to show you what doctrine your friend has gone. So what you want to do is you want to press this button or Control Plus. Doesn't work, of course. Control Plus. Oh no, Control Plus slash. Wait, what? Doesn't seem to work. Well, who gives? You just need to press it, and it's going to show you what doctrine he's gone for. So if you see that your friend, your American buddy, has gone for tactical support, you don't go Katyushi, because the Calliope is basically superior in every way. It's just a tiny HUD tip that you may not know. HUD in this game, fuck you. The HUD in this game sometimes is annoying to use, and there's tricks that you have to know. Sometimes it's just hard to know them, and well, they're gonna help out in general. Conscript's gonna get instantly suppressed by this MG34. Very unlucky. Gonna be forced to retreat. Now, we do see that the Raketenwerfer is kind of lying in wait. Unfortunately, he has the wreckage of a Panzer IV right in front. So if a Soviet tank like this T-3485 comes in from this line of sight, the Raketenwerfer is going to fire and hit the Panzer IV wreckage. That's kind of nullifying its effectiveness, so I think he should be repositioning it. Oh, Calliope Barrage. Calliope Barrage again on the Pak-43. One thing that it's doing is that it's not destroying the crew as much as I would be expecting it to, but it's definitely destroying the gun as well, which is going to be extremely useful soon enough. Also, the Katyusha coming in at the same time, going to be destroying the Pak-43. That's going to be 600 manpower down the drain for the Germans. Very, very good concentration of artillery strikes from the allies. I think it was kind of involved, I don't know, not exactly because of coordination, but because of, I don't know, chance. But it's nice. As long as it works, it's fine. So you're gonna be noticing that sometimes in team games, especially when you don't have sort of arranged teams, sometimes things do tend to happen by mistake or by chance, which is fine. And fortunately, because I toggled the HUD, it's gonna be dropping frames. I'm not sure why this happens, but if you toggle the observer HUD, it just dies. Nice bundle grenade gonna be going down on these port conscripts, doing a lot of damage, but unfortunately, the quad has been very, very useful at protecting the flanks from these Fallschirmjäger flanks. And right now, the Germans, as you can see, Mars is at 30 pop cap, whereas both of the Allied players are at 90. Goof is at 63. So really, the Allies could just be moving forward right now and capturing a ton of territory, putting a ton of pressure down on the Germans. Of course, they don't know that they are in such a superior position, which also means that kind of they need to be a little bit more aggressive, because if they don't know much about the enemies, that means they're not doing the proper sort of probing, as it may. There comes a railway artillery barrage taking down the ZIS-free anti-tank gun, and also doing some RNG sort of danger danger warning. Very good artillery hit from the Calliope. Wait, what? No, that was not the Calliope, that was the Katyusha. Very good hit from the Katyusha on that MG. Gonna be bringing it up to 6 kills, and gonna be destroying the veterancy on that. How is Mars, who has 30 pop cap in units, pushing back FNP Destroyer with 80 pop cap? How is it possible? This is what I'm kind of not exactly sure. It's not like it's superior quality either, because it's like a couple of Volksgrenadiers and a Vet 0 Fallschirmjäger. So squaring it off against the T-34-85, the Vet 3 quad, the Veteran 2 Maxim, the Vet 3 120mm mortar, should be very easy for FNP Destroyer to defend his areas from further attack. As you can see on the other side, Kapen with 88-64 in terms of pop cap. He's doing much better, and he's having to face against a Brumbear and a Panther, so I'm not quite sure. Very, very nice thing that just happened is the fact that, oh, nice. Good job with the Sherman taking out the 2 Scott car. One thing that's very, very subtly nice is that the Jackson just reached Vet 1, which means that it can use the HVAP rounds. Considering that the Panther has just now hit the field, that's incredibly important, because he's going to be able to penetrate the front armor of that Panther with the 70 or 90mm main gun of the Jackson, with using those HVAP rounds. If he didn't have the HVAP rounds, it would be a little less actually guaranteed that a shot would result in direct penetration. With that Panther frontal armor being as it is, you can use that Panther to pretty great effect. With the HVAP rounds, it's a little bit easier to counter that. Now, Jackson so far has been microed very, very effectively. We'll need to keep an eye out on it, because really the usage of that Jackson is going to be so crucial to Kapen's success on the right side of the map, because he's essentially out of pop cap. He can do the exploit to get the vehicle crews out and get some more vehicles on the field, but assuming he does not do that, that's basically the last of the Jacksons that we'll see for quite a while, until he loses some other vehicle. Very nice pick off on the Vet 5 Volksgrenadier from the Sherman's 50 caliber machine gun. Again, gonna be needing to use that Jackson that much more effectively, because it's the only one. Unless he loses something, which he does not want to do right now, because a lot of his army is very heavily bedded up. Now, I think he should be using some of these rear echelon troops not to repair, but to go around and harass the right side of the map, especially these 2 points. Right now, that's basically the main gripe I've been having with Kapen's play, but so far it seems like he has been very, very essentially effectively capturing and holding the VPs, which is crucial, because right now his teammate FNP Destroyer has been very, very, oh no, he's been very lackluster in the VP control, despite the fact that he had a very superior army, and right now King Tiger is on the field. This is like the ultimate unit to hold the VP, because it can face off against any ally unit and win. square off. Fair and square. Every kind of square that you can think of. And it can also be very useful in pushing. So if Mars can rebuild an infantry force, and it's a pretty big if, but if he can do that, then he's going to have a very, very easy time actually pushing up against FMP Destroyer. Because FMP Destroyer does have 2 anti-tank guns, right? 2 anti-tank guns are extremely effective against the King Tiger. But he does not have the actual medium tank strength required to actually go in, dive the King Tiger, get the flank off, and finish it off. He can go for another T-34-85, but I feel like he's going to be saving up the top cap to replenish his infantry forces. Which is useful, but I feel like having, instead of a Katyusha, having an extra T-34-85 would be extremely useful right now. It's 2 pop cap more, but if he had that, then he would have a much, much higher chance of actually going up against King Tiger, being able to deal large amounts of damage to it with the marked vehicle, and then coming in, diving in with the T-34-85s, and finishing it off. Now, if I was him, what I would do is... Ooh, here comes a Katyusha barrage. Let's see if I can destroy the MG again. What I would do is not replenish my infantry, and either go for a T-34-85 medium tank, or go for a T-34-76. You might be asking yourself, why T-34-76 when there's a King Tiger on the field? Ram. The T-34-85 has a pretty important engagement. Very good target prioritization from Gouf, actually destroying the Jackson first and forcing it to retreat. Very, very good play from Gouf. That's going to essentially save his tank forces, by the way. Yeah, again, the RAM ability. With the T-34-85, using the RAM is a little... it kind of leaves a bitter taste in your mouth, because the T-34-85 is 130 fuel and 380 manpower, so it's a very expensive vehicle to just be throwing away with the RAM. Also, its gun is able to deal quite a bit of damage to the German heavy vehicles. Now, one thing is for certain, essentially that, well, the T-34-76 is kind of expendable. I mean, not to disrespect on my love of the tank, which is the T-34-76, it's like my favorite tank in the game. Not to disrespect on it, it's extremely expendable. So what you can do is you can use marked vehicle, right? The damage that the RAM does on an enemy vehicle is percentage based. So it's based on the percentage of maximum HP that the vehicle has. At least I'm pretty certain. It might be based on the percentage of HP that the vehicle currently has, but I'm fairly certain it's based on the maximum percentage of HP of the vehicle. So it's going to be dealing much more damage to the King Tiger than to many other vehicles. And the marked vehicle amplifies any source of damage coming to the King Tiger by essentially 2 times. So if you can get a marked vehicle RAM combo off on the King Tiger, you're not only very likely to destroy, at least stun it, but also maybe damage the engine. You're also going to be dealing about a quarter HP, about the amount that the King Tiger is missing right now of HP in damage. Just pure damage that the King Tiger can't block with its armor. So that is why you need to have the T-34-76 available, because you can get the stun, you can get the huge burst of damage that nobody expects, and then you can come in, flank it with your essentially more superior vehicles like your T-34-85s, pot shots with the Su-85s and the tank destroyers like the Jackson, and essentially use that kind of tactic to destroy the King Tiger. It's extremely effective. And the best part is, almost nobody does it, so nobody's going to be essentially expecting it, as right now the Panzer IV command tank goes down from a shot from the Sherman, it looks like. Oh no, might have been the Jackson. Also, the Panther is going to be pushing up against the Jackson. Jackson is up to Vet 2, so Jackson is going to be able to very, very easily get out. Vet 2, I believe, does give it a bit of a... oh no, rate of fire and weapon accuracy. Still, it's going to be defending itself by offense. As everyone says, the best defense is offense. I believe it's Vet 3 that gives it additional movement. No, okay. Addition, rate of fire, and penetration. Oh wow. Okay, I thought that one of the Jackson's veterancies gave it a little bit of extra movement speed, but it appears not. Very interesting. Okay, Brimbear is up to vet free, 29 kills, as I expected, a extremely useful vehicle against any kind of allied infantry. Capen, however, still has a ton of manpower because of the fact that he has been essentially close to PopCap the entire time, and he has been playing very conservatively with his riflemen. He's lost one squad, which is unfortunate. He does have a few units of munitions stockpiled to upgrade his units with, but not really as much as I would have expected. I'm not sure as to what he's using his munitions for. I know that he's been using a lot of recon runs, which is extremely useful, because he's been essentially able to predict where the Panther was going to show up all this entire time. And that's kind of allowed them to have the Jackson. If you've noticed, the Jackson has been on point, countering the Panther pretty much the entirety of the time in every engagement, which is pretty much entirely because of the fact that that Panther was being essentially shadowed by the Jackson because of the lovely... hold on. Yeah, because of the lovely recon run. That is essentially the gist of it, and you always want to have information on the enemy in some way or another. One thing that I have not seen FMP Destroyer do, excellent Katyusha barrage, by the way, very lucky for Mars that these two units with extremely high levels of veterancy are able to retrieve. Had those units gone down, he would have been out, completely out of veteran infantry, which would mean that his King Tiger would be out of support. Of course it doesn't matter, because he's been pushing the King Tiger outside of the range of his infantry regardless. Very close also to a mine from the Soviets. Very luckily, he's going to be able to escape with his essentially skin intact because of the fact that the T-3485 was damaged and the Su-85 is not able to pursue alone because the other anti-tank gun is obviously not able to pursue the King Tiger because of its slow speed. Second Panther is on the field from Goof. Here comes a strafing run, completely misses and whiffs 125 fuel right into the toilet sink, which is a bit of a waste from Kapen. Kapen does have the ability to build a second Sherman Calliope, which... Oh, a Stuka! What? Sorry if that was a little surprising to me, but I was not expecting a Stuka at this point in the game. That's a very interesting choice. Oh well. We'll see how useful it is. It's definitely going to be making Kapen think twice about using this retreat point, so... well, maybe not far up, but he's going to be thinking hard about what that retreat point means for his infantry, and whether or not the Germans are going to be getting huge amounts of damage in. And right now... Okay, so Su-85... easily able to destroy the Brumbear, along with the support of both the Sherman and the Jackson. Again, the importance of medium tanks. If the Sherman had not been able to actually chase and give line of sight to the tank destroyers, I think the Brumbear could have escaped behind the smoke cover. There goes the Vet 2 Panther from the fire of that Vet-free Jackson. So again, very good job from the Allies, but again, they're kind of being a little bit too defensive. 92 and 95 pop gap on the Allied forces, whereas the Germans have 77 and 55, and they're just kind of being very defensive. They're waiting for the Germans to come to them, and they're allowing the Germans to capture points both in the flanks and in the center of the map, which is a bit of a problem. Here comes a huge bundle grenade. Kapen's not watching. There goes two vet-free squads, both the Lieutenant and the vet-free Rifleman. This is probably going to go down. Partially, and here it adds insult to injury, twists the knife in the wound, and then throws salt upon it with the BARs. The stolen BAR, the Pioneers, help finish off the poor Lieutenant and Rifleman. That was not exactly what Kapen was bargaining for with that attack, and he's going to be losing two very important assets because those were his two... Not only veteran squads, those were his two upgraded squads, because the other squad that he does have of riflemen that are veteraned up only have M1 Garands. So they're not going to be nearly as effective as those other squads. Vet-free Pioneers might go down, but it's a measly revenge. It's a bit like if... I was about to make some very inappropriate comments, but I decided to hold myself. Hint, it was about 9/11. Okay, so Sherman is still on the field, right? And the Sherman is going to be able to sort of take over the role of anti-infantry from those two squads that went down. But what the Sherman is not going to be exactly able to do is take over the role of capturing. So he, and by he I mean Kapen, he's going to be needing to actually up his game with his rear echelon troops. So far, he hasn't used them all that much in actual flanking maneuvers, to capture points, do harassment moves, and that's exactly what he needs to do with those rear echelon troops. That's exactly what rear echelon troops are for. They're not for repairing, because you can just get your stuff out. You can get your vehicle crews out and repair them. If you're afraid of the Stuka, just send your tanks back to base when you're repairing. That's what I do. That's what it works. It works perfectly English. That's what works for me, and I see no reason why it wouldn't work for Capon as well. Sherman, unfortunately, has armor piercing loaded when it's firing at these poor Panzer Grenadiers with the Panzerschrecks. One sort of blessing in disguise that sort of wipe was that the fact that he right now has a new Jackson. So having a second Jackson is going to be extremely important because of the fact that he can move those two Jacksons around as a group, and he's going to have double the firepower of one Jackson. What that means is that he's going to be having a much more powerful sort of alpha damage. That's what you'd be referring to in some games. In some games, you'd be referring to that as burst damage. Essentially, the ability to very quickly do a big amount of damage to the enemy's health bar. There goes a demo charge. Not quite sure as to what it destroyed. A very high amount of damage to the enemy health bar. What that means is that if the Panther is diving the Jacksons, perhaps even with the support of a new Panther from Mars, depends. If he goes for a new Schwer Panzer quarters, he might go for a new Panther, or a new Panther from Goof Custom. If there's a couple Panthers charging your Jacksons, and there's one Jackson, Jackson fires, deals like a quarter HP damage to the Panther. Panther keeps chasing, eventually probably destroys the Jackson if it's got enough support and the Jackson is a little overextended. But if there's two Jacksons, boom boom, 90mm guns, both of them penetrate, hopefully, and they do half of the HP of the Panther. And now if the Panther stays, it's in risk of actually the next sort of volley destroying it completely. So it's kind of a deterrent. That's exactly why you want two Jacksons as much as possible. Sometimes you just don't have the pop cap, like Capon earlier. Again, very, very nice with the rear echelon troops. Going to be able to come in, and there goes a Jackson. The veteran at that, which, well, it was a little annoying because it was destroyed by the actual Panzerschreck Panzer Grenadiers, which, well, it's exactly what you don't want to happen to your Jackson. Unfortunately, he has been starting to sort of slip up on his micro, which means that really the game has been getting to him because of the amount of time that's elapsed from the start of the game. 45 minutes is a lot, and obviously the micro is going to be starting to slip up on various different units that sometimes you'd be microing very, very effectively, but after 45 minutes, not so much. Now, and that's where actually having a big heavy tank comes into play. Now, this is a bit of a more meta kind of thing. It's not really about the game itself. But if you have a, well, not about this game itself, but if you have a big heavy tank that's got a ton of HP and is essentially just a big dumb fat fuck that does not die, it's going to be much easier to micro it later on in the game than like a nimbly light vehicle or light tank destroyer that doesn't have as much armor, but maybe is a bit of a glass cannon like the Jackson. Very good job from Capon. Has the presence of mind to immediately replace the Jackson, which is exactly what I would have done in his shoes. Because really, the Jackson is going to be his main way to actually defeat German heavy vehicles. Right now, again, FMP Destroyer is just being so defensive. He has a full army, 100 pop cap, right? So what he needs to be doing, by the way. Oh, there goes a Sherman. Sorry, took a sip of water. There goes a Sherman. And that's going to be a bit of a problem because, as I said, the Sherman can take over the role of anti-infantry. But if there's no Sherman, then what's doing anti-infantry in Capon's army exactly? I do not know. There's the Vet-free MG, which is very useful. There is the Calliope, obviously. But the Calliope is not going to be enough if the enemy can outflank it or in any kind of way dodge the barrage. Or maybe get into too close to where, for example, like this, Calliope, even if the Calliope was able to fire and was reloaded, it would not really be able to do that. because of the minimum range on it. As you can see, the minimum range essentially meant that it had to fire just a tiny bit over where the Panzer Grenadiers actually were. Interestingly, Capen is attempting to run over the Panzer Grenadiers with the second Calliope, but the Fanfare says no and starts to fire on the Calliope, thus forcing it to retreat. Very good push coming in from the Germans. Gonna be following up on their successful infantry push with the armor, and gonna be essentially pushing in their lead and trying to capture the center VP. Right now they're down to 127 VPs, which is not exactly what you want to do. And did King Tiger go down? No. King Tiger took a... Oh, there goes the Stuka though. Wait, what killed the Stuka in the base? I think it was the Katyusha. Yeah, there's a vehicle destroyed. Most likely it was the Stuka. Very good counter battery fire coming in from FMP Destroyer. And this T-3485 is still alive with 22 kills, and it's just being a pesky fly, just running around the German rear lines. Oh, right. Vehicles destroyed 1. It might have actually been the T-3485. Capen, fuck you. Because, I mean, of course, there was something funny happening, so I was checking out this, and I was not looking at the minimap. Had I seen that there was a T-3485 doing a huge flank, and doing essentially a massive flank adventure, I would have been looking at that. So finally, FMP Destroyer has followed up on his advances and on his incredibly huge army lead, and he has started to actually capture some points. Finally! Holy shit! I mean, honestly, again, I've been hammering on this point for quite a long time. That's just because, really, it's just sad that right now FMP Destroyer hasn't been doing anything. Again, really good. Here comes the flank of the Volksgrenadiers. Quad comes into the flank and protects it. Very luckily, these Volksgrenadiers don't get suppressed by the first burst, but the second burst is not going to suppress them. There goes the third burst, finally suppresses them, and essentially clears the way for the T-3485 to get rear shot by the King Tiger some more, which is not exactly how I would lose the T-3485. Here comes a lag spike, along with the push that the Germans are going for on the right side of the map. A pack gun is on the field for Goof, which is extremely actually good for him, because he's going to be able to actually use that mobile pack gun instead of the Pack 43 to maybe even survive some Katyusha barrages and Calliope barrages if he's able to dodge. Oh, here comes a vehicle bun from the Guards Rifleman on the poor King Tiger, and also along with the marked vehicle, King Tiger going to be forced to retreat. And unfortunately, because, again, there are no medium tanks for FMP Destroyer, the fact that he has no medium tanks means that he can't chase, and there goes both of the Su-85s, one from the Bet 4 now Raketenwerfer, second from a combined effort of the Raketenwerfer and the King Tiger, once the Su-85 was mismicroed and instead of reversing away from the fight, decided to show its rear armor, thus sort of keeping itself in the line of fire for longer, and also obviously making it an easy target. And a second... Oh, Tvoyu mać. What happened to the T-3485? I just heard it say Tvoyu mać, and... Wait, what? Where was the T-3485? Not sure. But, okay, here comes the Jackson actually chasing down the poor Panzer IV command tank, destroying it. A very meager revenge, once again, for the amounts of losses that the Allies just took in this engagement. But thankfully, Capen is still up to 100 pop cap, which means that FMP Destroyer can use his ridiculous reserves of actual resources. He had like 2,000 manpower, 500 fuel, something like that. He can use them very, very much, finally, which is not English, to actually replenish his forces, which was, I was about to talk about it. Okay, so when you're actually at maximum pop cap, right, you want to be incredibly aggressive because you're also going to be using resources. And you might be thinking, well, why would I want to be using resources? Well, floating is bad, so you want to be using your resources to the fullest. So you're going to be, oh, there goes the quad. That had like 300, no, not 300, like 30 kills. Very, very much a shame that it died. And you want to be actually trading with the enemy. So if you have like 2,000 manpower, and you lose a 250 manpower unit, and he loses 250 manpower unit, even if he has some ridiculous amount of manpower like 1,000, that still means that he has half of your manpower, right? So it has twice as much of an impact that you just took out his 250 manpower unit with your 250 manpower unit. So it's important that you do that, because eventually, if you don't do that, then you allow your enemies to actually recover, which is what Mars is doing. Now, thankfully, he is still kind of ridiculously reckless with the King Tiger. Here comes the Jackson. Bet2 Jackson is going to be able to get a drive-by shot on the armor, frontal armor, in fact, of the King Tiger, taking it out, along with the support of the marked vehicle from FFP Destroyer. And the Panther is not going to be able to retaliate by destroying the Jackson, which means that that poor King Tiger just died for nothing. Mars is going to be able to soon enough replace that, but he doesn't have the manpower, which means that he should cancel that Obersoldaten squad as quickly as possible, thus giving him back the 400 manpower. Although, by the time he has the fuel required, he's also going to have the manpower required, so I take that back. It is still a good idea to keep those Obersoldaten in production. He also needs to be upgrading the Obersoldaten with the LMGs. I still question the purchase of 2 Obersoldaten squads when you're facing a Soviet player. When you're facing a Soviet player, unless he's spamming shock troops, you're not really going to be needing all that much anti-infantry, because the conscripts are going to be easily defeated by even your Volksgrenadiers once they get some veterancy. Here comes Tube Calliope barrages from Kapen, going to be destroying the last remaining Vet5 Volksgrenadiers, so much for that. And he's going to be needing the Obersoldaten now because he lost the veteran Volksgrenadiers. But he's going to be charging in the Obersoldaten against 2 T-3485s, and the T-3485s are going to be able to mow them down with the Dushkas from the Hall MGs and the 85mm rounds. Vet5 Reckoning are going to be able to get some pot shots down on the T-3485s, but it's going to be forced to retreat. And there goes the machine gun, crew, and weapon from a bundle grenade from the Obersoldaten. The Sherman right now taking huge amounts of damage from these Panzer-equipped Panzer Grenadiers, and they've just been doing so much work for Goof. These 2 Panzer-equipped Panzer Grenadiers. So far, they've definitely been the MVPs for him. He has been a little reckless with the Panthers, which is, in my opinion, his main mistake. Right now, very good job from Kapen using the machine gun, not forgetting the fact that the 50 cal machine guns can actually cap. In fact, machine guns can cap in general. Never forget that. If you can use that to your advantage in cap of your support weapons, such as your anti-tank guns and your mortars and your machine guns, then you're going to have a much higher capping power sometimes, especially if you have a lot of support weapons but not a lot of everything else in terms of infantry. So having that capture point now under his control means that they're avoiding a triple cap. Right now the Allies are down to 230 VPs, which is definitely lower than like the 400 that they had some while ago. So having the bleed actually stopped is extremely important, and having Kapen use that machine gun to that effect is very nice to see. Right now, on the left side of the map, there are 3 T-3485s, and one very good thing about the T-3485s is that they're Soviet tank. So once they get the Vet1, they're going to be able to use the secure mode to actually capture points, which means that this MG34 is not going to be quite as effective. As the OKW announcer is extremely excited that there's a King Tiger on the field, the Brumbear is unfortunately going down, so perhaps the OKW advisor should not be quite so excited for his ally. Unfortunate because he thought, Goof thought that he was safe, as essentially kind of standing the Brumbear behind this little batch of trees, along with the fact that he had his Panther in a very, very not secure position, allowing the Panther to get completely demolished, and right now the Allies are completely in control of the field in terms of armor, and that's just kind of the effect of having all that resources stockpiled and then actually doing the trading. Now, despite the fact that the Allies completely lost in the trades, because the Germans were able to do very well in those engagements and kill much more for the Allies than the Allies killed with the Germans, the King Tiger was destroyed, and that was the big one, because it kind of delayed the King Tiger being on the field for a few minutes. And also, not only that, it's also now that there's a Vet1 King Tiger, or sorry, a Vet0 King Tiger on the field instead of a Vet3, so that's pretty good. However, the fact that the King Tiger is still on the field doesn't really mean as much because of the fact that the Allies had ridiculous amounts of actual resources that they were able to actually use to instantly replenish their forces. Kapen, he lost two Jacksons, and he was able to instantly replenish them with 2 more Jacksons. Then FMP Destroyer lost his veteran T-34-85. He lost his first Su-85. He was able to instantly replace it with 2 more Su-85s, 3 more T-34-85s. They're able to easily destroy King Tiger. And that's kind of the gist of it. When you have those huge resources in essentially reserve, then you can afford to trade a little bit more, even on the loss. And what's even more funny is the fact that it wasn't even the Allies that kind of looked for that trade. It was the Germans who charged in and destroyed a lot of Allied forces, which is not normally what you see. Normally you see the side with the bigger army charge in. Oh, very good job actually destroying the entire Panzerschreck squad with the Sherman. And that's just the power of the Sherman. When you have those HE rounds, you can get those wipes, and having the wipes instead of just the damage is just so much more valuable. So having it, very good job for Kapen. I'm going to be able to essentially use that to great effect. Right now, the T-34-85 is starting to deal tons of damage to these German forces. There's absolutely nothing that the Germans can do except bring in 2 Panthers and the Vet-5 Raketenwerfer to oppose the Allies on the left side, which is going to mean that the center is completely exposed and the Allied armor, along with the artillery support from the Calliopes, very good job taking out the 2nd Panzerschreck squad. They're going to be able to very easily clear out any kind of German units there, and then move in their own forces to actually capture the point, which is going to reduce the Germans to a 2-to-1 disadvantage in terms of VPs, which with 100 VPs under their belt is going to mean that essentially, hold on, 1 each free is going to mean 20 per minute. 5 minutes, they're going to go down. They're going to have 5 minutes exactly of time where they're going to have still VPs left. Okay. Ooh, this T-34-85 might go down to Panzerfausts. That would be very funny. Panzerfaust squad needs to chase though. It's not chasing, so it's not going to be able to catch up to the T-34 and put the last remaining shot to it. Interestingly enough, FMP Destroyer is still placing down mines. Why didn't he place down demo charges on the VPs though is beyond me. So I feel like having some demo charges on the points would have been extremely effective at wiping out German infantry squads, especially Mars's later elite squads such as the Fallschirmjägers and the Obersoldaten. So I feel like that was a huge mistake and huge wasted opportunity for SMP Destroyer to actually force the Germans to get some extra minesweepers on duty. And that would have been not only good because of wasting German munitions, it would have also been good because of essentially making the Germans a little bit more wary every time they headed into an engagement, right? So every time the Germans were able to bring in their forces, ooh, this guy might go down. They were able to bring in their forces and actually recapture the point, the VP, once the Allied forces were away. If there had been demo charges there all over, wiping out their squads, they would have fought twice before doing that. I absolutely assure you. And right now, I think this Soviet player is making a bit of a mistake by not moving up any kind of forces to capture the center. There is the combat engineer able to very easily just move up and capture the point. Also, in fact, recapturing the Maxim machine gun would be extremely useful to defend against any kind of German infantry pushes. And also, T-34-85 going to be able to maybe not completely defend the left side of the map because of the ridiculous Vet-5 Raketenwerfer just demolishing it, along with the support of a Jagdpanzer, interestingly enough, going to be able to pretty much force back a lot of the Soviet armored forces. That is before the Jacksons get involved with their HVAP rounds. In fact, the Vet-free Jackson went down, which is a bit of a shame. There goes the Jagdpanzer being completely demolished by a devastating volley of free tank destroyers that the Allies have gone for, which is going to be extremely, extremely effective. There goes a bit of a miss from the poor Jackson. And right now, we are going to have a nice push coming in from the Allies on the center of the map. And right now, the right side of the map is also under the control of Capen. Again, one little cap goes a long way. Remember that 50 cal capturing the point? It hasn't been contested this entire time, despite the fact that this machine gun's actually too far to protect the point effectively. Because let's activate the Fog of War. There's surely nothing important going on the other side. A unit could just be standing in there and the Fog of War... and the machine gun would not be able to actually cover it because it's out of range, and because it's out of sight range as well. So the Germans would have been very, very easily actually capturing that right side of the map. But again, one little cap goes a long way. That little tiny cap from the 50 caliber machine guns, 50 caliber machine gun from Capen, actually sort of allowed the Allies to sit pretty on the left side and the center, and essentially have only one of those points captured to have a superior VP count and a VP lead. And right now, because of the fact that they are able to use on cooldown, because of their munition superiority marked vehicle, they're able to always use the marked vehicle whenever any kind of the big German vehicles shows up. And that's kind of allowing them to force them back and force them into repairs, and allowing the Allied vehicles to essentially be the kings of the battlefield. Thus, sort of, well, rip. Never mind, Jackson goes down. But yeah, what that meant was that the Allies were able to also keep their tanks on the field much essentially longer, and support their infantry in fights, thus allowing their infantry to win more fights and capture more points. And I think this is going to be the end of the game. Germans down to 33 VPs. In the center, the Allies are going to be able to recapture that point. A Sherman was stolen. Okay. Not quite sure as to how that happened, but it's not going to be enough. And 25 points remaining for the Germans. Raketwerfer is going to be coming in with the sneak and capturing the point. Maxim going to be coming in to avoid the points actually being completely captured by their Raketwerfers. Calliope Barrage forces them away, and gonna get the triple cap just a little 1 second before... Oh no, never mind. Forschemigo is gonna be able to avoid the humiliation of getting triple cap right a second before going down. And that's gonna be the end of the game. I've already talked at length, I think, about what both teams did. Quick recap. The Germans were a little bit too focused on their big vehicles and then played too reckless with them instead of holding them back and throwing them at the Allies in one big offensive. And then when they did make a big offensive, they didn't make sure that they had enough reserves to actually replenish the big losses that they were going to take in those big engagements. Especially the King Tiger, which was a little bit too reckless. Definitely too much elite infantry coming from Mars, and not enough sort of frontline survivable infantry, not enough unit preservation at all. And Goof, also few problems with unit preservation, but that was kind of a little bit more acceptable on his side because he had to face with those Calliopes constantly. Calliopes in the end going for 31 and 16 kills, so 47 kills. Tons of kills coming in from the Calliopes. Eventually took their toll and started wiping out the units from Goof as well. But again, not much that you can do when your units are Panzergrenadiers. Panzergrenadiers are extremely vulnerable to both Shermans and artillery units. In general, anything that's high explosive. So it's a little bit more understandable that he lost his infantry squads. He had good play with his vehicles, but again, sometimes he was a little bit too reckless with them. He was able to at least keep them alive a little bit longer, and I understand that. He was not aggressive enough on his side, whereas Mars was definitely a little bit too aggressive on the left. And a similar thing for FMP Destroyer, he wasn't aggressive enough on the left side. He should have had a little bit more awareness of how many troops he could have actually replenished, how many troops he had on the field. The fact that he had a full pop cap and he was still kind of playing extremely defensive against someone who has a half pop cap for most of the game is not good. He needs to be more aggressive. Especially since he was guard motor coordination, which means that he had those T-3485s available to him, so he even had the tools to be aggressive. Capen also a little bit on that regard, could have used some improvement. Sometimes he was a little bit too sort of focused on sitting back, but considering the fact that he was with the Tactical Support Regiment, or sorry, Company, that's much more understandable because it's a defensive-focused commander. He's he focused essentially on knowing where the enemy was coming with the constant spam of recon runs, then bombarding them with the Calliopes and destroying the vehicles as they come in with the Jacksons, which worked out wonders. He could have been a little bit more dynamic with his rear echelon troops, just zipping them around the map like a swarm of bees and capturing more points. I think that's the main criticism that I can give to his play. And also sometimes his machine gun placement was not essentially best. It wasn't exactly top-notch. This machine gun was alive for how long? Let's check. Units, construction. Let's see. Capen 95. Yes, I just said 95. That's the second machine gun, right? Yep. It's been alive since minute 26. And that's 40 minutes. 40 minutes, and, well, it might have been recrewed. I accept that. But I haven't seen this machine gun do anything the entire game. I've seen the other one get vet-free quite quickly and then get kind of forgotten about. And then whatever. Also, I think Mars at the end of the game kind of dropped the ball on actual fuel usage. He went for that Stuka, which was useless. Then he went for 2 Jagdpanzers, which were useless. Wait, no. Did he go for 2 Jagdpanzers? No. I guess the Jagdpanzer survived. Yeah, Jagdpanzer survived. He went for the Jagdpanzer, which was useless. So that was like 100 and... No, to like 240 fuel damage drain? 235. Damn it. Missed by 5. 235 fuel damage drain. Not good. Don't waste your fuel kits. I want to thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed. Hope you've learned something. Tell me in the comments if you learned something, or if you have any suggestions for what these players should have done differently, or for anything that I should do with my cast overall. As always, I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.